Hello and greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is my Redux/redo version of my walkthrough and review of the D&D I5 Lost Tomb of Martek module. When the evil again walks our land, will nomadic princes come to set his power into his first bride's hand, that good and evil then are met. Then will needs be the star gems 3 to my tomb be borne hither, and a hope shall not wither. Open the gates to my sphere of power, and put off evil in its appointed hour. Hello, and greetings to all you fans of RPGs and of Dungeons & Dragons. This is RPGmodsFan, and in this video, I will be reviewing and discussing the Dungeons & Dragons module I5 Lost Tomb of Martek, which was written by Tracy Hickman and published by TSR in July of 1983. This module was meant for player characters between the levels of 7 to 9, meaning it is an intermediate dungeon adventure level. This module was written for AD&D 1st edition rules. The Dungeon Master will need to do some work to convert it to 5th edition rules. The I5 module is the third and concluding adventure of the Desert of Desolation Trilogy. In previous videos, I have already reviewed and discussed the I3 Pharaoh and the I4 Oasis of the White Palm modules. Many elements and events carry over from those modules into this one. So as to not repeat myself too much, I would suggest watching those videos before this one. In 1987, TSR combined the I3, I4, and I5 modules together and released them as the Desert of Desolation Supermodule. The Supermodule adds a few more details, NPCs, areas, and encounters to the trilogy. The original modules do not place the adventures in any specific campaign world. In the Forgotten Realms setting, the Desert of Desolation compilation places the adventures in the Desert of Rorin. This desert is located in the southeast area of Pharaoh. The I5 Lost Tomb of Martek module is supposed to take place after the events that take place in the previous I3 Pharaoh and I4 Oasis of the White Palm modules. Spoiler alert! If you do not want to know what happens in the I3 Pharaoh and I4 Oasis of the White Palm modules, then I would suggest not to watch the rest of this video. Previously on the Desert of Desolation series, foreigners to a strange land, the player characters are arrested, accused, and found guilty of doing mischief to a wizard of the court named Wandu. They are taken to the base of a range of craggy, dry mountains, which opens up into the foreboding Desert of Desolation. Their sentence is to be banished into the desert. Also, during their wanderings in the desert, the player characters, or if not them, then someone else, would have freed an Ephoriti from its 1,000-year imprisonment. Dealing with the Ephoriti is the overarching plot of the Desert of Desolation Trilogy. By the way, the Ephoriti's name is Calitharius. In order to counter the Ephoriti, the player characters freed the Jinn Erroldoth to do battle against the Ephoriti. The escape of the Ephoriti and his terrorization of the desert people were all foretold by a powerful mage named Martek. Martek's prophecy also spoke of heroes, tests, and dangers. Are the player characters those heroes? What are the tests? What dangers and riches lie ahead? So, the Ephoriti and the Jinn were locked in battle. The Ephoriti hurling fire winds, while the Jinn was hurling hails of ice. Neither of them suffered greatly, but the poor desert folk below were blasted by fire winds and pummeled by balls of ice. So, releasing the Ephoriti and Jinn in actuality added greatly to the problems and suffering of the desert folk. However, Martek's prophecy has also told of his sphere of power, an artifact that can put an end to the trauma. The prophecy also speaks of his hidden tomb where the sphere of power is housed, and that 3 star gems will be needed within it. I will now be discussing the module itself, and this video will contain spoilers. Unless you are a dungeon master who will be running this module for their players, or are a player who already played through this module and are watching this video for nostalgia purposes, I would suggest not to watch the rest of this video. The module assumes that the player characters have obtained the 3 star gems from their adventures in the previous 2 modules. However, if they do not have all 3 star gems and enter Martek's tomb, then they will find themselves trapped with no means of escape. If the Dungeon Master wants to continue the module and the story forward, then he or she will need to imagine some plot device in order to do so, such as a non-player character enters the tomb a week after the player characters did with the missing star gem or gems. In this module, most of the desert is covered with a sea of glass, a place where the sand has fused into glass. To the player characters, the ground seems to drop away into a deep sky. Clouds seem to float below them just as they do above them. Its surface is almost perfectly smooth. The glass averages 10 feet or 3 meters deep and is very hard. The bottom surface of the glass is very reflective. The sky above the glass can be seen reflected in the glass. Hence, the sea of glass is also known as the sky sea. The air above the sky sea is heated by the reflected desert sun, which makes its surface scorching hot. Nearby to where the player characters start from is a grounded and half-buried cloud skate, which is also known as a sky ship. The craft can be used to traverse the sea of glass at a rate of 1 hex every 2 hours during the night, or 2 hexes every hour during the day. While traversing the sky sea, the player characters may encounter a ghost ship. Ooh, spooky. Or they may encounter a group of spectral minions. Spectral minions are new monsters that make their debut in this module. Or they may even encounter a purple worm breaking through the glass. Within the areas circled on the wilderness map on the screen, At each of the locations marked with the letter H, the player characters will find 3 30-foot or 9-meter tall crystal spires and are at 3 corners of a large black hexagonal base. When a character strikes one of the crystal spires, the crystal will sound a vibrating tone, like a tuning fork. A few moments later, all 3 crystals will start ringing. Then, Martek's tomb will appear floating 500 feet or 152 meters above the player characters. The tomb is huge. It is 6 miles or 9.5 kilometers wide and made of crystal. From the tomb, a pillar of light will suddenly shine on the hexagonal base below. Anyone standing on the base will be teleported to Area I-4 in the Garden of the Cursed that is within the tomb. Martek's tomb will remain visible and the pillar of light active for 1 turn. After that, the light ceases and the tomb will disappear into its alternate plane of existence. There are 2 groups of people in the garden, the Guilders and the Mad Dogs. The Guilders are the descendants of thieves who entered Martek's tomb over the centuries and became trapped here. Over the centuries, theft has evolved into a religion for the Guilders. The Mad Dogs are the descendants of paladins and good warriors who entered Martek's tomb and also became trapped here. Due to inbreeding, people of both groups are now of low intelligence. Basically, they are dimwits. Both groups do not trust each other. The garden is mostly jungle. The Guilders have a village located in the center of the garden. The Mad Dogs make camp in the lower left side of the garden. When the player characters arrive, a large gong will bong. Within 1 to 6 rounds, 20 curious Guilders will arrive. 1 to 6 rounds after that, Paunus, a drow thief, will arrive. When he does, the Guilder villagers will bow down before him. Paunus will welcome the player characters. Okay, time to mention the major non-player characters in the garden. Trifecus. Oh god lord, these names. Oh god lord, these names. It's gonna be hard to say these names with a straight face. Trifecus is a human male 12th level wizard and can cast some nasty spells. Trifecus. I should give this guy a nickname. Trifecus was the leader of a small band of Oh, I'm losing it. Alright, let's try this again. Trifecus was the leader of a small band of adventurers that has entered the tomb probably not more than a few months ago. He seeks Martek's fabled sphere of power. He discovered that without the star gems, he is trapped in this garden. With his magic tricks, he was able to gain reverence from the Guilders. He will treat the player characters with feigned disinterest. If he were to learn that the player characters have the star gems, he will then get the Guilders to steal the star gems from them. Paunus is a drow male 10th level thief. He entered the tomb with Trifecus and is not happy about being trapped in here. The Guilders view Paunus as Trifecus's assistant. Sardok is a male human 10th level thief. Like Paunus, he entered the tomb with Trifecus. Unlike Paunus, Sardok gets along better with Trifecus. Sardok is cunning, cruel, and usually rude. To me, it seems Trifecus is missing a cleric from his party. So, the Dungeon Master could add such an NPC to the adventure. Village Master Bandic. Oh, here we go again with these innuendo names. Village Master Bandic is a... Let's try this again. Bandic is a 4th level thief, but like the rest of the guilders, his thieving abilities are rolled at 12th level. Bandic was the master of the guilders before the arrival of Trifecus, Paunus, and Sardok. For now, Bandic is loyal to Trifecus. Percivalus is a human male 6th level paladin, who I shall nickname as Percy. Percy entered the tomb 3 weeks ago. Being lawful good, he joined the Mad Dogs. He knows the basic history of the guilders and the Mad Dogs. He also knows that Trifecus and his assistants are recent arrivals and nothing more than 2 thieves and a greedy wizard in search of power, fortune, and fame. During my review and discussion of the i3 Pharaoh module, I mentioned about a human female 6th level paladin who I gave the name of Mazzy. Mazzy was trapped inside Pharaoh Amun-Re's pyramid. The i3 Pharaoh module states that she is on a quest to find a magical amulet. I would like to retcon what I said in that video, as well as what was written in the i3 module. Here is my suggested retcon. Instead of an amulet, make Mazzy be on a quest to find her lost older brother, Percy. The only way out of the jungle garden and into the rest of the tomb is through a set of shiny silvery doors located at the top of the garden. Some distance in front of the doors is a strange, polished, blue-gray stone altar. If all 3 star gems are placed into the holes of the altar, the silvery doors will open. Beyond the silvery doors is a corridor with 1001 more doors. The only way to open all these doors simultaneously is to speak the words Mopalar, Shapalar, Compalar, Re. Basically, this module's way of saying Open Sesame. If Trifecus was able to get the star gems, he will use them to open the doors, as well as the 1001 doors, since he knows the passphrase necessary to open them. He will go down the hall with Paunus and Sardok. Thus, the chase is on between the player characters and Trifecus through the rest of Martek's tomb. At the end of the hall with 1001 doors is a huge square room mostly filled with flames. Glass steel pathways go around the room as well as crisscrossing the middle of it. Along the walls are several set of false doors. Perched high above is an iron phoenix. In the middle of the room is a 10-foot or 3-meter diameter round blue crystal disc. It will start to slowly descend once there is any weight over 40 pounds or 18 kilograms on it. The disc will eventually descend into a huge hexagonal-shaped room, which is called the Crystal Prism. This room leads to 3 alternate planes of existence. In order to proceed further in the tomb, from each of these alternate worlds, the player characters need to find and bring back a crystal in the shape of a miniature minaret. The location indicated on the screen goes to the Black Abyss. This next location indicated on the screen goes to Mobius Tower. And finally, the location indicated on the screen goes to the Desert of Al-Alask. Located in the center of the crystal prism is a dais with a crystal miniature of the Tomb of Martek. This miniature already has 3 crystal minarets in it, but has holes for the other missing 3 minarets. The Black Abyss is a gash that bridges the prime material plane and the 666 layers of the abyss. In the Black Abyss, the prime material plane breaks down until it spirals into total chaos. As the player characters progress in the Black Abyss, the laws of space, time, and magic changes. First, distance changes, then time, then magic, and finally, there is a total breakdown. With the exception of the rocky pathway before them, red clouds will be swirling and churning around them, as well as flashes of red lightning and eerie, howling winds. At the end of the rocky pathway, the solid ground gives way. Huge chunks of rock break away from the edge and float off towards the center of the nightmarish, swirling storm. However, the area is not losing ground, because as soon as the rocks fall, new rocks form to take their place. Far in the distance, there is a crystal island floating in the middle of the storm. Each chunk of the rock that break away is large enough to hold 1 character, and safely carry them to the crystal island, where it bumps against before hurtling down into the whirlpool of the Black Abyss. The crystal minaret lies standing in the middle of this island. Next is the Mobius Tower. There are 4 levels in this tower. These levels are connected together in a magical loop. There is no upper level or lower level. All of the levels are connected by stairways. Characters can climb up forever and never reach the top. They can also go down forever and never reach the bottom. The Mobius Tower is time-trapped. Most of the people and things in the tower are in a different time frame than the player characters. Everything in the Mobius Tower, except for a few monsters, is moving
very, very slowly.
1,000 years could pass before the player characters could see any of the people or things in the tower move. Everything seems to be frozen in both time and space. Time-trapped people and things cannot be moved or damaged unless their time frame is changed to the player character's time frame. Upon arrival, the player characters will immediately see their quest item. The crystal minaret sits on top of a small, fancy, silk-covered pillow. However, the minaret and the pillow are time-trapped, and the characters will need to untrap it before being able to obtain the minaret. In order to untrap an item or person, the player characters will need to use the Medallion of Time that is in room numbered L3E. A Guardian of Time is wearing the medallion and is unwilling to give it up without a fight. Another way to untrap an item or person is to teleport it into room number L4A. time flows normally in this room. As an important side note for the Dungeon Master, using a teleport or like spell to exit the tower will not work. However, teleport spells will work normally within the tower. For the denizens of Mobius Tower, from their perspective, time flows normally, even though everything seems frozen from the player character's time perspective. The ever so slow moving story of the Mobius Tower is as follows. The tower is the residence of a sheik. His first wife is part of a plot to murder him. The sheik lies asleep in his bed. There is an assassin outside his door who fired an arrow. The arrow is suspended in air and is mere inches away from the sheik's heart. Oh, and by the way, the sheik does have a harem in room numbered L2F. Here, beautiful women lie still as stone in poses of relaxed laughter. Room numbers L3B and L3C are grand chambers and are stopped in timeless grandeur. The chamber to the south has many richly dressed men and women who stand around the room. They are frozen in motionless poses. 20 dancing girls dressed in flowing clothes are stopped in their spins and dances. The unmoving figure of a man dances with one of the girls. Likewise, the chamber to the north has figures of men dressed in bright robes of various colors who sit around the room on pillows. In the center of the chamber are 20 dancing girls clothed in bright robes hang in timeless spins. Okay, time for me to get my mind out of the gutter and move on. On an unknown world, the crypt of Al-Alisk is in a wilderness known as the Desert of Al-Alisk. This desert is just as harsh as the Desert of Desolation. The lure of the desert and the crypt's area within it is as follows. Thousands of years ago, Princess Sithal al-Hust was supposed to wed Athas al-Din. On her wedding night, Habrok al-Nirin abducted her and imprisoned her in the crypt of Al-Alisk. Habrok had a fatal attraction to Princess Sithal. In his mind, if he cannot have her, then no one can. Although everyone has long since been dead, their spirits still haunt this desert. Every night, starting at midnight, spectral knights ride across the desert towards the crypt and do battle with the spectral minions there. The spectral knights are the dead forces of Athas al-Din and the princess's father. The spectral minions guarding the entrance to the crypt are the dead forces of Habrok. In the I6 Ravenloft module, Tracy Hickman will again recycle this story of a 1,000-year-old love triangle and unreciprocated love leading to tragic ends. The crystal minaret is located inside a crystal cylinder in room numbered M5M. Also, inside the crystal cylinder is the frozen form of the princess. Breaking the crystal cylinder will release and free the spirits and end their haunting of the desert. The princess's figure crumbles to dust, and her spirit thanks the player characters as she ascends. Once all 3 crystal minarets are placed in the miniature tomb of Martek, which is back at the crystal prism, the player characters will shrink in size and be teleported to room numbered N1 in the Citadel of Martek. And now for the big twist.
Dun dun dun!
Martek's sphere of power never existed. Martek's sphere of power was referring to his wisdom, learning, and knowledge, and not to an artifact. In my opinion, the I5 Lost Tomb of Martek module has a weak ending, and is a weak ending to the Desert of Desolation series as a whole. Within the huge circular room numbered N2 are 3 life-size statues of Jinn. In the center of this huge circular room is a platform. On top of the platform is the crumbled bones of Martek. At this point, it is the player character's goal to bring Martek back to life. One way they can do so is by placing a star gem in the hull of the headgear that each of the Jinn statues have. Upon doing so, Martek will rise up, his flesh will be made whole, and is alive again. When the player characters are ready to leave the tomb for good, Martek will teleport them out and back into the Desert of Desolation. Floating high above the ground, below them they will witness Martek join battle with Shin Eraldoth against the Efreeti, and then they will win. The player characters will then be teleported to wherever they desired to go, thus ending the I5 Lost Tomb of Martek module and the Desert of Desolation Trilogy. Again, I found this ending of the module to be lame. Here is how I would fix it. Within the Mobius Tower, have the unmoving figure of the man that is dancing with one of the dancing girls be Martek. Try to give hints such as this man is dressed quite differently from the other men in the room and seems out of place. Remember, the module describes Martek as foreseeing the events currently taking place in the Desert of Desolation thousands of years earlier. And thousands of years is not even a blink of an eye within the Mobius Tower. Martek can be untrapped in time by using the Time Medallion or by bringing him to room number L4A. If the player characters have not freed Martek from the Mobius Tower, then have a crystal ball in the center of the huge circular room, showing the unmoving figure of Martek dancing with the unmoving dancing girl. Hopefully, this should be enough of a clue for the player characters to pick up on. Once Martek is freed, he will want to go back to the huge circular chamber in his citadel. Once he and the player characters are in the circular chamber, he will state that he will teleport the Efreeti into this chamber. He will also prevent the Efreeti from escaping into the astral plane or like, and it is up to the player characters to battle and finish off the Efreeti. Due to the strain of teleporting the Efreeti and preventing it from escaping, he will be unable to further assist in the battle. Thus, once Martek teleports the Efreeti, the player characters now have an epic final boss battle on their hands and a more heroic ending. This is how I would end the I5 Lost Tomb of Martek module. 2 new monsters make their debut in this module. Spectral minions are spirits of humans and demi-humans who have died before they could fulfill powerful vows or quests. Either a remove curse or fulfilling their vow or quest will get rid of them permanently. Tracy Hickman would later use them much more extensively in the Dragonlance series. Crypt Knights are creatures that died frightening deaths in the Mobius Tower. Some have escaped to other parts of the tomb. Roll credits. Displayed are the meager credits found within the module itself. Between both Amazon's and DriveThruRPG's websites, there are only a total of 4 reviews. All 4 reviews average a 4.7 out of 5 stars. There were 2 notable customer comments that I shall read. The first one reads as follows. This is probably the weakest in the Desert of Desolation series because it is the most linear, and a lot is just grandstanding. However, the Sea of Glass is still one of my favorite concepts in a module. The tests are pretty cool. The Crypt of Alisk is quite weak, and the Garden of Martek with the Mad Dogs and Guilders can be fun. Reminds me of classic Star Trek. The other one reads as follows. Ingenious end to the Desert of Desolation Trilogy. The Desert of Desolation Trilogy concludes as the heroes find themselves desperately seeking the spirit of the ancient Martek in hopes of deliverance from the wrath of the Vizier Efrat. Their quest takes them into one of the most ingenious dungeon settings ever devised, the Mobius Tower, where time literally stands still. An assassin's arrow hangs suspended inches away from its target's breast. The torchlight glows solid, unmoving, and cold, and only the ghosts still wander free. Of course, that's until the chaos of the distance and time distortion magic kicks in. An unforgettable classic. Thank you for watching. Hope this video has been informative and entertaining. I love many types of role-playing games, especially Dungeons & Dragons. Inclusive in my wayward love is computer role-playing games, such as Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, the first 2 Dragon Age games, Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment, and others. I have also created a playlist of classic D&D modules composed of videos from various YouTube channels. I noticed some gaps in it, hence the reason for reviewing this module, which is to fill in one of those gaps. I will also do a video on the Desert of Desolation compilation. However, with that video, I will only discuss the additions the compilation makes to the i3 to i5 modules. Till next time, this is RPGmodsFan saying cheers, have a good day, and goodbye.